So apparently my camera shut off, so I'm going to make a part 2 unless I edit these two together. Anyway, the last thing I said in that last video, I said that I don't fault young people for getting involved with the left and buying into a lot of the things that the left says. And the reason I don't fault them is because I know it's out of ignorance. How do you know it's out of ignorance? Well, a lot of this, the things that I say regarding stuff like this is based on my own experience. And I remember when I was in my 20s and I started, hearing about politics, and Michael Moore had made the movie Fahrenheit 9/11, and when you listen to the left and you don't listen to the right, and I think that the right is finally starting to become more vocal, but at the time you didn't really hear from the conservative side, because most of the conservatives are aware of the Democrats and the liberals' mental disorder. So there's just not much to be said about it. It's person's fucked up. They're fucked up. Their thinking is fucked up, and it's one of those things. Once you're called a racist, it's kind of a non-argument, because now you've been labeled, this person full of racial hate. So now nobody wants to hear from you at all. But getting back to why, I don't fault a lot of the young people, is because I know how the left advertises itself. I bought into it when I was younger, when all the Democrats, you would hear from all these Democrats how they just, they're all about love and saving the world and doing the right thing and all this stuff. And on the face of it, it all looks and sounds good. But then once you start finding out that, these same people are perhaps funding the exact opposite of what they're telling people they're trying to get done, it just blows your fucking mind. Now, I don't affiliate with myself with the Republicans or, the conservative side either, because a lot of the Republicans are just as bad in their own right. It's a different party and everything, but in their own right, they can be just as bad. So I don't affiliate myself with any party. In fact, I try to pride myself on being, when it comes to politics, being a true independent. Because if there's an issue that I care about, I will do my own research and find out. I want to hear from both parties. I want to hear from the Democrats, I want to hear from the Republicans, and then I want to find out as much information on the issue as I can, so that I can make an educated choice as to what I believe in and what I support. And that's getting harder and harder to do as a direct result of mainstream media. Most of the time, not most of the time, a lot of the time, I end up leaning more conservative than I do liberal. But both parties have absolutely, I'm just disgusted with both parties, to be honest with you. So when a guy like Donald Trump becomes president, gives me hope. Because I think in a different time, Donald Trump could have just as easily run as a Democrat. But I also think that in a different time, he wouldn't have had a chance of even fucking making the nomination. As a matter of fact, if it were up to his own party, the Republican Party, if it were up to the Republicans, he would not have been the nominee. I mean, they fought that tooth and nail to the last fucking second. So it says something about a candidate when his own party is reluctant to support him. It tells me that his own party is not in charge. You know what I'm saying? That he's not bought and paid for by the party like most politicians are. And there's another Ferrari going down. I've seen more fucking Ferraris in the last month going down the road. I don't know what the hell's going on. A lot of people getting rich, I guess. But, yeah, and if you watch old interviews with Donald Trump, I mean, I think there was actually a time when he actually said he would probably run on the Democratic ticket. So that gives me hope, you know. He's in office now. He's our president now. And I think he's exactly what this country needs. Maybe not what this country wants, but I don't think the country knows what it wants as a whole. I think people know what they want. And I think most people want to earn a decent living and be left the fuck alone. You know? And they want to do what they want to do, just like I want to do what I want to do, and you want to do what you want to do, and be left the fuck alone. You know? I can't even imagine. I'll tell you what, the last thing, one of the very last things I want is the fucking government involved in my life. I try to fucking stay, I don't want to fucking any form of government in my life, you know? I'm not saying I'm anti-government because I think the government is necessary to an extent. But I also know that if our government was what it was drawn up to be in the Constitution, our government would be small and very limited. And I think our government should be small and limited, understanding that we've become a very large nation. But I think our government should be as small and limited as possible. Obviously, you know, we need to represent our country well. We are the greatest country in the world. That's what they say. You know, we're the greatest country in the world, and I've traveled to several countries, and I can, from what I know of the world, I can agree with that statement that there's no better place than here, man. And I think that if you talk to immigrants, you'll find that they'll tell you the same thing. There's a reason they're here, man. There's a fucking reason everybody's trying to get to the United States. There's a reason people aren't fucking leaving here. There's a reason we have a fucking immigration problem. I mean, really, if you wanted to look at the immigration problem for what it is, it's one of those good problems. This country is so awesome. People are literally risking their lives to fucking be here, to get here, to have an opportunity to live here. you know. Unfortunately, and people can say, well, this country's all immigrants, and it is, but the thing of it is that we've reached a point in our history where we can't just have people flooding into this country. We're overpopulated. We don't have room for all the people who want to be here and want to come here. We're just running out of fucking space, man. And it's not so much that as we want to make sure that the type of people that are trying to come here, we want to do a better job of making sure that they have good intentions. And they're not coming here because they think it's just going to be a free ride. And most immigrants are not like that. Most immigrants are coming here for the opportunity to be able to have a life, I know several people who are not from the United States, and they've told me about their home countries and what it's like, and it's not, let's just say it's not the United States, right? It's just not. Never forget the time my neighbor, and I'm sure I brought it up in other videos, when he told me, he said, here, he goes, you guys, he's from Romania, and he said, here, you guys have all these rights, a right to this, a right to that. He said, where I come from, he says, you don't have a right to anything. You don't even have a right to live, You can be walking down the street, a police officer can walk up to you and say, what are you doing? How come you're not at work? What are you doing walking down the... They can just take you into custody. Recently, I had just heard a story about how in Italy, the police over there were laughing because they said, in Italy, we don't start interrogations with talking, United States, they're not even allowed to fucking beat on you and shit like that, I mean, you can have a fucking murder case thrown out because of the way you were treated, And if the fucking Democrats have it their way, that's the type of country they're going to turn this into. Black people in the United States are so far along in their history now that I've got to believe that most black people are just, they're just done with this whole racial whatever, They want to fucking live their lives too, Now, I'm not going to deny that there's, something different about being a black man in the United States. But I can't imagine that it's any more different than being a white man in the United States. I mean, if white people were fucking complete dicks the way we're depicted, we could say, Jesus, man, I can't leave the house without being called a racist. I gotta watch what I say, watch what I do, watch who I look at, because I don't want to be called a racist. And that's what the left would have you believe, that all white people are fucking terrible. Listen, man, I've never met a white person in my life that genuinely hated. And I'm talking about a true racist. I've never met anybody that was a genuine, had genuine racist hatred in their heart. I've met plenty of people. I think a lot of people have racial tendencies, I guess you could call them. I think everybody gets fucking frustrated, and says things that, they might not ordinarily say, but hey, we've all been in a relationship where you've gotten angry with somebody. You don't even have to be in a relationship. We've all gotten angry and said things that we didn't necessarily mean. And fuck, there's times that you're just going through life and that shit happens. You get pissed off, somebody fucking cuts you off, and it's a first thing you're fucking looking for, you know? I mean, like Chris Rock said in one of his things. He said, if somebody cuts me off and causes me to get in an accident and they get out of their car and they happen to have one leg, I'm going to talk about the fucking leg, you one-legged motherfucker. You know, it don't make you a fucking racist against one-legged people. It makes you pissed off and saying things that you don't necessarily mean. So getting back to what I said in the beginning of this video, you know, when that guy who happened to be black said that, I couldn't, at the time I wasn't saying anything. I was just kind of listening to the conversation. I was there with a handful of guys and until he said that, and then I had to say something. And I told him, I said, dude, shut the fuck, dude, you're full of shit, dude. What the fuck is wrong with you? You can't fucking, dude, that's like fucking flying over a fucking somewhere, middle of nowhere in the United States and looking down and saying, everybody that lives down there is a racist. Even if they don't know it, they're racist. You know what I mean? That's just some fucking ignorant shit to say. But I guess what blew my mind is that he fucking believed it, man. And he fucking argued his point. And like I said, most of it, I just let him talk because he just made himself look like such a fucking idiot. And he deserved to make himself look like such a fucking idiot. So I just allowed him to do that. And, but Jesus, you know, sometimes people piss you off and you just, I hope that, you know, he's since thought about that conversation, or at some point in his life he'll think about that conversation and look back and say, you know, I guess I was wrong, you know, I don't know why. Because there's things in my life where I think back and I think, God, why did I think that way, you know? Like when I talk about my younger years and buying into the Democrats and what they said, now I think, God, why? How could I possibly think that way? Why was I so dumb to think that way? But it's just part of life, you know. It's part of life. It's part of living, you know. You live and you learn and you keep going forward, and you know, I think everybody, you know, just tries to do the best they can, you know, for themselves. And you know, you try to treat people kind, you know, try to be kind to people, and try to help people as, you know, as much as I can. And I pretty much everybody I know is the same way, you know. If they could help me in some way, then they would, you know. So I guess the moral of the story is, what's the fucking moral of the story? I guess the moral of the story is maybe fucking don't buy into what your fucking Fox News or MSNBC is telling you. If you're really that concerned about it, do your own research. And for God's sakes, whatever you do, and this is what I've done, especially in the past 10 or 15 years, is if I do watch the mainstream media, I make a conscious effort to remind myself that I'm watching. This is entertainment that I'm watching. This is not the truth. There might be some truths in it, but there's way more lies than there are truths. This is all fictional for the most part, and I'm watching it because I want to be entertained, not because I want to be informed. There's other avenues that I can go to when I want to be informed, and the mainstream media is not that avenue. Anyway, guys, that's what I got. I'm going to do this in 2 parts, I guess. So I hope everything's going well for everybody and all that good stuff. Obviously, I'm driving. I got some miles ahead of me, so figured I'd do a video, say hello. Didn't think it was going to end up being this long, but it is what it is. Catch you guys later.